and pick up the kids, I actually thought I'd do this little interim video in between nutrition and in between training and that kind of thing to answer a question that a lot of people have found difficulty with accepting, and that's about their weight on the scales, and do you need to weigh in every single day? Now, a lot of us who are in weight-based sports like weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting or powerlifting, or even weight classes for bodybuilding and things, get really het up on the weight classes that they need to be, especially if they've got to make weight. Now, what I would say is that if you are in a sport that you have got to make weight for, and you are in like the last maybe 2 to 3 weeks of trying to make weight, then yeah, I think it would be a really good idea to weigh yourself every day, just so you can get an idea of how your weight actually fluctuates. There are so many different things that affects your scale weight, and people let the scale define them so much, and it's quite heartbreaking actually how much it lets a number on a little plastic or glass platform determine your day. It really is quite upsetting how much I see it affect people's minds and mentalities and their attitudes towards their loved ones and anything else that goes with it, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's like the number on the scale defines them. And the amount of times that I tell my clients, or I ask my clients and just say, do you know what, don't weigh in every day, and the shock horror that comes over their face is like, what? You know, because it's almost like they're attached to the scale. And why is it that we're attached to the scale? Let me tell you that if you weigh in every day, I mean, when I first start coaching with my clients, I ask them to weigh in every day, especially for the first kind of 7 to 10 to 14 days, just so they understand that there's so many different things that affect the scale weight. It could be how much water you've drank that day, whether you've had a meal that's higher in sodium that day, whether or not you've trained that day or not, whether or not you've hoovered more than 3 bedrooms that day or didn't hoover anything that day, whether you're taking the dog for an extra long walk, whether you're stressed, your cortisol levels are high, whether you've drank so much more, the types of food that you're having, and then the types of food that are actually stuck in your gut, how much fiber you've taken in that day. There's so much that actually affects the scale weight, and that's the reason why I ask my clients to weigh in every single day, at least for the first kind of 7 to 14 days, so they understand, even if they are bang on track with their macros and they don't go over, and everything else is, the stars have aligned and the moon is proper and everything else like that, and yet the scale weight still gets affected. Do you know that the room temperature that you sleep in still affects the scale weight as well? So I would say that if you are going to compete in the next kind of 14 days, then yeah, absolutely, keep an eye on your weight every single day. In the last 7 days, I would, especially if you are going to compete in a weight class sport, you can also wait of an evening time as well, because you can see what your weight is actually doing. The more stress that you have, the less weight is going to come off. So I would recommend somebody else kind of having a look after your scale weight for you when it does come to preparing for a meet, because you're going to be stressed enough as it is, let alone having to worry about a number on the scales. However, if you are just a general population client who just wants to lose a little bit of weight, who wants to look beach ready, who wants to become healthier, fitter, leaner, faster, I would definitely say detach yourself from that relationship on the scales, because it's not a number that defines you. You can actually weigh heavier on the scales, but your measurements can come down. Your body composition can be completely changed. You can visibly look leaner and lose body fat and gain muscle tissue, hence the reason why the scale weight might not even change. I've put a very interesting blog post on my Instagram, which I'll link on the bottom here, and you can actually see the difference. I'm 0.8 of a kilo heavier, and yet I have lines in my ass when I didn't do the previous one, because my body composition has changed. So I would say try not to let a sad step affect you. This is one of the problems that I have with Weight Watchers or Slimming World, where you have an official weigh-in day, and it's normally at 5 o'clock in the evening, after you've been stressed all day at work, you've been up and down on your feet, you haven't eaten, and then maybe the next week you've had something different to eat, and yet you're weighing in at 5 p.m, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. But then, even if you don't weigh in at 5 p.m, and you weigh in first thing in the morning, that number to some people can make and define their entire day. And you can like get all het up and get ready and get ready to jump on. It's almost like you're preparing to pick up like the heaviest deadlift that you've ever picked up. And you can step on the scale and look at it and you can go, yes, I'm going to have a great day. And then the very next day you've done exactly the same thing and you get prepared to weigh in, and then you weigh in again and then the number's gone up and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? So try to get detached from the scale unless it is absolutely 100% necessary, and that is for a competing athlete. If you just want to have a better relationship with food, a better relationship with the way that you look, and you don't want to have a stupid number on a small platform that you step on define you, detach yourself from the scales and just look at different variables in order to track progress, and look at non-scale weight victories. That's what I would really recommend. Highlight the non-scale weight victories rather than scale weight.